Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of my collection. The collection we're going to discuss today is right here back behind me, oil lamps. So we do not have a large collection of these oil lamps, but someone that does is Sarah's parents. They have a massive amount of oil lamps, and some of them are way smaller than ours, and some of them are way larger than ours. These are pretty tiny themselves. If you compare it to my hand, you can see the size of them right there. But there are all sorts of shapes and sizes of oil lamps. They come in all kinds of colors, and the wicks are a little bit different on some of them. For instance, this one is a flat wick, and you can kind of just see that slot right there, and there's a flat wick that comes right up out of the top of it. Let's see if we can get it up. If you see right there, it's just a tiny flat wick. Now these ones that are right beside it have a round wick that comes up. There's really not too much of a difference in the light. And you can get these wicks at online everywhere. And these round wicks, all they basically are some like round cotton rope type stuff. You can even get some of this in the sewing type section of Hobby Lobby or something like that. And then redo the wick or something if you needed to. This is a newer one that we got. It's new for us. It was just a cheapie. It does need a new flat wick. This is a little bit larger one. But the wick that was in there is almost burned up, and it's real tiny, and it's stuck down in here with some gunk. And that gunk comes from them burning lamp oil that is either scented or it was colored, and you can't really tell because this glass is colored itself. But don't be afraid to find one of these lamps, and if it has gunk in it and you only pay like $2 for the lamp, go get you some vinegar and then let it sit down in here for a little bit, swish it around, and then you will see that gunk come out of there, and you can make it look completely brand new. So I've got to do it on this one. It's not as bad as what you may see on some, but overall it's pretty cheap to operate these and maintain these. And so we're pretty excited about that one. That one has a different shaped globe on it compared to the other ones that we have. Now this one right here, this brass looking one is actually a hanging one. You could hang this from the ceiling. I'm kind of leery about hanging one of these from the ceiling just because of the heat. Now this does have something that kind of redistributes the heat right out through here. So you could hang it, but I would want to hang it a lot lower than what's right there. I don't know, maybe I'm a little paranoid or something, but anyways, this is just a flat wick lantern, and it was just something we picked up at a kind of a, I don't know, a flea market sort of estate sale type thing or something that was going on, and some lady had it, and it had been sitting out in a barn, and so we got that really cheap. Pretty neat little lantern. It's a little different. I think it's probably just a cheapy thing from, you know, China or Hong Kong or something like that. I don't think it's anything really valuable, but like I said, you really don't have to spend a lot of money on these. This one is a pretty neat one. This one you can hang on the wall. As far as hanging on the wall, I wouldn't really worry about it, especially when they come with these shields like this, kind of keep the heat off of the wall. This is another flat wick one, and they don't produce a ton of heat or anything, but just, you know, the heat is gonna rise, so don't hang this up towards the top of the ceiling, which it would look funny if you did that anyways. But it's kind of pretty, and this is a really thick globe on this one, but the light does kind of bounce off of the back there, and it's a pretty neat one. And this is one right here that Sarah's parents gave us, and it's just all clear. When they gave it to us, it actually had some gunk down in through here, so we've cleaned that up a little bit. Now those are all the flat wick and round wick lamps. This one right here is a little different. You can see how much taller that globe is right there. Pretty tall. Now This is what they call a center draft lamp. And this one, you're supposed to burn kerosene in it, and it's pretty bright. It has a round wick in it, if you can see this top part right there, and it coming out right here. That's a round wick. Now, this is the wick that it came with, and we haven't had this too long, and we really kind of burn these things more in the winter time than the summertime, unless we had a power outage or something like that. But this round wick is all crooked, and I'm gonna try to cut it, but it's kind of low actually, so I have ordered a new wick that I'm gonna put in there, and that way that the flame is all nice and neat and stuff. But you just kind of adjust the wick up and down just like that. This produces a very bright light compared to these round wick and flat wick lamps. But it's called a center draft because the air goes through these holes in the bottom and then goes up the center part of this through the tank where you have the kerosene. This stores your kerosene right here, but it goes up through there. It's sealed off, and the air goes up through here to burn, and it produces a big bright light. It is not loud or anything. It's not like a Coleman lantern or anything, but part of this globe is tall because it uses some of that to kind of pull the air up through. So if you use it without the globe, or you use one of these other globes in here, it's not going to produce the same kind of light, and it's not really going to burn evenly and all the way around. Now you will see a bunch of these. We found this at Goodwill, and I didn't know what it was at all. So it's something that I'm still learning about. But what I have learned is there are a lot of brands of these. Some of the more popular ones are Aladdin, and Coleman actually made some that were like a porcelain, I found out after doing some research. But there's several different kinds. This is a Naugatuck. But these things, I'm not exactly sure on how to tell the age on these, but it's technology that was around in the late 1800s. And they probably stopped making these in the 1920s or 30s. So the problem with these are that you want to make sure that this wick goes up and down, and that this centerpiece on the inside pulls out. Also, this will rotate up for lighting. So far I've just been lifting the globe just because that's what I've done on these. But anyways, you want to make sure all that stuff turns, and if it does, it's probably going to work for you. These can get really expensive, and we just got lucky that we saw it at a Goodwill. Like I said, all it really needs is a new wick. But like I said, they have stopped making these, so as far as getting parts, you would have to buy another old one and just sort of piece it together. But I'm going to take a couple of these out in the garage, and we're going to light it up, and we're going to compare it to the Coleman just to show you the light difference. So I am now out in the garage, and I just kind of wanted to show you, you can see this kind of lamp oil at Walmart, places like that. This is kind of a kerosene and paraffin wax mix. And so when you burn it, it sort of has an odor, and it's because of the kerosene that's in it. And so you'll notice that odor in the air. If you'll buy some of this, and you may not see this in Walmart, but you can order it on Amazon and have it shipped to your house. This burns much cleaner, and you can put that in the round wick and the flat wick lamps. As far as this is really supposed to take kerosene, but I suppose that you could use this since it does have some kerosene in it. But it's that wax that may actually clog pieces of that. I'm not sure. This takes the white gas that's from Coleman, or you'll see a couple other brands of it. But let me show you the difference in just what a candle looks like, and then some of these others so you can see some of the brightness. So first I'm going to light this candle right here. There's nothing special about it. It's just a plain old candle. But I kind of wanted you to see what the light difference is here. This next one is a round wick, and there's really not much of a difference there between that and a candle. Now, when you have that flame all the way up, it's gonna smoke, and you wanna just turn it down until you don't see any more smoke at all. So as you can see, it's pretty much about the same light as a candle. It is a little bit more steady than a candle. You can of course make this wick on this candle a little bit more steady by trimming the wick. But this is a steady flow on this round wick. And then the globes are different. Like I was saying, you've got different globes that kind of accentuate the light coming out of it. And of course, no matter what, these lamps are a lot more beautiful than what candles are, even though we like candles as well. But these lamps are pretty special. So that is a round wick, a tiny one. So now that we have those two lit, let me light this larger flat wick. Like I said, you're just gonna light it, stick that globe back on there, and then that'll kind of control the flame. As you turn it, you can see that the light is much brighter, and it's kind of the same thing. You're gonna go and it's gonna smoke, and then you can kind of back it off and then just control your flame there. Now, as the wicks kind of burn, you can also trim the wick on the lamp as well. You can make it into a square, you can round it off. But as you can see, it does get a little bit brighter. Now, if you do burn these too high, what will happen is the smoke that's coming out of there will make the top of it black. And so, like I said, if you burn that paraffin wax, the smoke will be a little bit more limited. And if you just kind of back it off, it will reduce the amount of smoke coming out the top and reduce the amount of times that you have to actually clean the globe, other than it getting kind of dusty, how you can see that that one is. We really haven't burned this since the winter time, so they've just kind of been sitting and collecting dust, as you can see. Now, this is the center draft lamp, and this produces quite a bit more light than what the other ones do. So kind of operating a camera here, we're just gonna cheat and lift the globe and light it that way. As you can see here, it is a lot brighter than what the other three are put together. Because of that round wick going all the way around, it produces a ton of light. Now, what you want to do on that is trim the top of it, of the wick, so that it's even all the way around, so that you've got a nice pretty light. That wick that it came with does not have a nice neat trimmed wick, so I'm going to trim it, but the wick is pretty low. And like I said, I've got a brand new round wick that I'm going to install in there, and then use it and have a nice pretty light this fall by the fireplace. As you can see here out in the garage, it's really starting to light up with just those four things right there. And really, that little candle and that round wick lamp on the end, they're not really doing a whole lot. The flat wick is doing a little bit more, but this round wick is doing a bunch, and it's really lighting up the garage a lot. Well, let me show you what this Coleman's gonna do. So this last lamp or lantern that we're gonna be lighting today is a Coleman lantern. It's a big hat. Now, these you really wanna be lighting outside, and it's because they take a white gas that emits some fumes that you really don't wanna be breathing in. That white gas is made by Coleman or Crown, or there's a few other kinds that you can find out there. They used to burn these sort of Coleman lamps inside the house, but that was back in the days before they had air conditioning and the windows were raised and stuff like that. So if you have the windows up, you can burn one of these on the inside, but most people got the air conditioning going. So these are really meant for something when you're outside camping or maybe in the backyard, something like that. But they get really bright. As far as ease to operate, it's one of the more challenging ones because you've got to pressurize it and pump it up 30 times, which I've already done just for the ease of this video. There is also a little bit more as far as taking care of the mantles that are in here, these little white things right there, and as far as keeping it clean and stuff like that. The wick ones are a little bit easier to operate, but let me show you the brightness on this. So you're just gonna light it, let it burn, let that fuel kind of even out, and then eventually it will kind of hold off, and then you can kind of crank it up and it gets pretty bright. Eventually that light will even out and you can turn it all the way on. And when you first get it on like this, you can pump it up a few more times here and get it a little bit brighter, that way it lasts. But as you can see, that is more of a white light compared to the other ones. They're white, but kind of more of a yellow, especially the flat wick and the round wick. You can see that candle's just about out. That candle's an old one. But those are kind of more, they come through on the camera as white, but they are actually more of a yellow, especially these two. And then this one gets a little bit more bright white. Because it is a round wick, you're going to use more fuel than what you will for what these use. But this one right here is really bright, and you can see in the garage that it is completely lighting up everything. But altogether, it's really bright out here. One of these Coleman lanterns is more than what you need when you're out camping or something like that. But if you're just kind of in the winter time trying to relax around your fireplace or something like that, these things are what you want, especially if you can find a larger flat wick or one of these center draft lamps. But I kind of just wanted to show you the difference in the light output of what these do. So I kind of wanted to just show you the differences in the oil lamps and then the pressurized lantern and the candle. It's pretty neat to kind of take it back old style, because these oil lamps have been used for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So this is old technology that you can still use and still buy. All the wicks and the parts for these can still be purchased. And you can buy these old oil lamps like this really, really cheap. Anywhere from like $2 to $15 is what I would pay for them. There are some that cost a little bit more. Maybe they're more elaborate and that they've got metal or different colored glass and stuff like that. But really, they're cheap. These right here, they'll run you a little bit more money to buy. And some of them are collector type deals. And if they're mint condition or a certain brand, they can run upwards over $100, maybe closer to $200. These, of course, there's collector's ones in these as well. There's also a new one that you can buy that's probably about $80 to $100, but get you a good used one of these. It's probably only about 15, 20 bucks, $25 at the most, and they're really rugged. You could carry them around outside, go fishing, boating, hiking at night, whatever you want to do. They're really rugged and they are very dependable. None of these right here are you really going to carry around. You can go outside on your back patio and set them on a table or something like that, but you're not going to carry these around or anything. But as far as these, they get hot, but not as hot as this one. And of course, that one doesn't get as hot as this one right here. So just be careful that you don't burn your house down or burn your hand or your fingers. Use care when you're touching the bottom part of this globe or the globe on this or the top on that. But anyways, let me know if you've ever used any of these, or if you still use them, or if you have any kind of special memories around them. We basically use these right through here in the house in the wintertime, maybe on the table or on the mantle above the fireplace, and just kind of accent to kind of set the ambiance of whatever we're having, family get together, Christmas, what have you. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching this series. I've got one more in the series that's coming up this next week. It's going to be completely different than anything I've shown. It's not related to anything that I've shown whatsoever. And I hope you'll stay tuned to that. It's going to be next Thursday. And that will be the last in this My Collection series. So I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this video, please check out the other ones in the series.